We have some big breaking news from the NHL. It looks as though there's some pretty big names, including Carey Price, that will be available to the Seattle Kraken in the upcoming expansion draft. We'll discuss what we know so far coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, we have some pretty significant breaking news tonight, especially in the Montreal Canadiens organization. We have word from NHL insider Pierre LeBrun that Carey Price has waived his no-move clause to be available for the expansion draft to the Seattle Kraken. Now, that's pretty substantial news. Now, of course, he's not the only significant name that is going to be available, and we will have access to the full protected list and players that are available. I believe it's going to be around 11 or 12 o'clock at noon tomorrow. Eastern time, I believe, is when the NHL is going to be releasing that. So by early afternoon, we'll know everything and know who's protected and who's available. And we can kind of formalize more of a more structured plan on who we think Seattle is going to take. Now, I guess the thought behind this is that because of the contract, they won't take him. But he's arguably one of the best goalies in the world. Just went to the Stanley Cup final. Came really close to winning the Stanley Cup this year. And you have to wonder, would Ron Francis take advantage of that? I mean, I know they probably don't want to spend to the cap. That's probably not ideal for them. But their ownership group has already said that he has authority to do that if they want to. So this is really going to be interesting. And another thought around Carey Price is that it gets him pretty darn close to home where he's from BC. So I don't know. I mean, it is probably unlikely that they do claim him, but they can do that. He's available. Now, the Habs have been rumored all day to be working on a plan or trying to figure out how to not lose Jake Allen. There was talk that he could be traded, so they didn't lose him for nothing, so they at least get a return. That never materialized. The roster freeze time came and went earlier, no deal. But there was speculation that his name was out there. Maybe that speculation might not have been entirely true. It's hard to say. And then, of course, there's always the possibility that Marc Bergevin make a side deal with the Kraken and Ron Francis. But word is they're looking for some pretty substantial, assets for any kind of deals. If you want a player off limits, you're looking at least 2 draft picks, one of them being a first rounder, like a first and a third, or like a high-end prospect. And that's a lot to give up. So as much as they really like Jake Allen and what he brought to the table this year, and when he had to play longer stretches when Price was out, that's still, it's a lot to jeopardize the future. So, this is really quite a story here. Now, I understand why they would consider this move. They obviously must be pretty confident that the Kraken won't go there. But that's pretty darn tempting when you're starting a brand new team and you have a chance at a world-class goaltender like Price, who just come off a heck of a playoff run, going to the Stanley Cup final for the first time, and your new team is pretty darn close to where he's from. So for family purposes, I'm sure he wouldn't be overly upset. Obviously, he had to agree to this too, because he has a full no-move clause. So this is no way blindsiding Carey Price. This was something that Marc Bergevin and the team would have had to speak to him and his agent about, and obviously they agreed to it. So that is really surprising to me. But pretty big news, and we'll have to wait and find out in a few days what the Kraken actually do. Now, of course, like I said, that helps them keep Jake Allen as well. So there's a good chance their goaltending tandem will not be impacted here. But we'll have to see what Seattle decides to do in that regard. This could backfire, but time will tell. Now, there's also news that Vladimir Tarasenko of St. Louis has also been exposed and made available here as well. We've heard that the superstar himself was wanting a trade out of St. Louis. Of course, he's basically, you can almost call him a former superstar, because the last couple of years have been really rough on him. He is a former 30 to 40 goal man on multiple occasions, but has had a lot of shoulder issues, has had 3 surgeries now, barely played in the last couple of years, looking for a fresh start. He's got 2 years left at $7.5 million. There's rumored to be a fair bit of activity, and even though he has a full no trade clause, there's a list of teams he's given to the Blues that he would waive for, and believes to be between 8 and 10 teams, depending on who you get the information from. Some say there's 8 teams, some say there's 10. I've heard of at least 8, so we'll go and kind of go from there. But, at this point, a trade did not get worked out before today. And again, this is probably a case, I'm sure St. Louis would rather trade Tarasenko, but this is going to hurt his value too, because other teams are going to be like, well, listen, you almost gave him away to Seattle. Why should I pay you a whole lot for him? And I don't know what they're looking for a return. I don't think it's going to be a huge return. They want the cap space back so they can go after another player to replace him, maybe help them keep Jaden Schwartz. So I don't think it's an overly huge ask, at least you wouldn't think. And they've also made his medical records available to other teams. And I've seen NHL insiders, I think it was Dave Pagnono that had on Twitter today, that the trade could not be worked out, but it had nothing to do with teams being concerned over his medicals, that there was other reasons, and it probably had to do with the fact that their exposure requirements and that they don't want to have to bring him in and then have trouble losing somebody else. It's probably easier for most teams to do this after expansion, assuming he's still there. Now, of course, if the Kraken take him, they can trade him too. So it doesn't mean for sure he's going to be a member of their team on opening night. He could be a trade bait as well. So we'll see what happens. But a couple of very big names that are on the available list for the Seattle Kraken to start their franchise with. Max Domi's another name too in Columbus that apparently is being exposed. But we'll get the full list tomorrow. We'll go through and do a video and look at all the names that are available and kind of speculate over what could be. So we'll see what happens. There's also Chris Driedger as well in Florida, is expected to sign with Florida and be one of their goaltenders, but that still doesn't mean they couldn't take Price too. I mean, a combo of Price and Driedger would be pretty darn good in my opinion. So we'll see what happens, and we'll do another video tomorrow looking at the whole list. So let me know your thoughts on this pretty significant breaking news tonight, and we'll discuss further in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with everything regarding the expansion draft, all the news and trade rumors on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.